Kwaku Ananse was a very smart and intelligent man, yet cunning, who lived in a village called Asempaneye. The king of this village found himself in a predicament. His only son, who had to succeed him, died, and this man became very sad. So he became worried for many days because he had no other child to take over the throne when he is no more. So in order for him to secure the throne, he decided to get a wise man from the same village who could succeed him when he is no more. So in order for him to get the wise man from his people, he summoned all his people one day and asked who could take this maize from him and exchange for a human being from different village for a price. All the people became very quiet because this was a very difficult task for them. They asked themselves, how could somebody use a maize to get a human being? How possible? And even apart from that, all the nearby villages were their enemies. So how could this be possible? They asked themselves these questions. Immediately, Kwaku Ananse stepped forward and told the king, I can do it. It is possible. So give me the maize. So he took the maize and set off from the village into the nearby villages. Kwaku Ananse deliberately got into the village at night and entered into one house where they were doing poultry farm. He went to the man, greeted, and begged him for a shelter for the night. And he told the man that he is a traveler. He is going into the next village, but since it is night, he will be glad to sleep here so that the next morning he will continue his journey. The man replied and said, I can give you a place to sleep, but what about your maize? Where are you going to put it? Then Kwaku Ananse immediately said, oh, don't worry about my maize. I can just leave it in your poultry farm so that the next morning I'll take it. But I want to sign a bond with you. If your flocks eat my maize the next morning, I'll take one cock. And the man agreed, so he went to sleep for the night. So when he woke up the next morning, he went into the poultry farm and the flocks had eaten his maize. So he took one cock and thanked the man and left that village into the next village. He walked for a very long distance into the next village, and he deliberately go to the village at night as usual, and he searched for the house where they were rearing sheep. When he got to the house, he greeted the man and begged him for shelter for the night and told him the same story, that he's a traveler, but he got here at night, so he'll be glad to sleep here for the night so the next morning he can continue his journey. The man replied and said, I can give you a place to sleep, but what about your cock? I don't have any poultry farm, so where are you going to put the cock? Then Kwaku Ananse immediately said, oh, don't be worried about my cock. Since you have sheep here, I can just put it inside the cage so that the next morning I will take my own and continue my journey. But I want to sign a bond with you. If your sheep kill my cock the next morning, I will take the biggest and leave. The man agreed, so he went to sleep for the next morning. When he woke up the next morning, he immediately went inside the cage, and the sheep were standing on the cock, lying dead in the cage. So he told the man and took the big sheep and left the village into the next village. So he continued his journey into the next village, and he deliberately got to the village at night as usual, and he searched for a house where they were rearing cows and bulls. So he went to the man, greeted and told him the same story, that he is a traveler coming from a long distance. He got to this village at night, so he's looking for a place to sleep so that the next morning he can continue his journey. The man replied and said, I can give you a place to sleep, but I don't have a cage for sheep. So where is this sheep going to sleep? Kwaku Ananse immediately said, oh, don't be worried about my sheep. Since you have cows and bulls here, I can put it inside the cage so that the next morning I will take it and continue my journey. The man agreed, and Kwaku Ananse added, I want to sign a bond with you. If your cows and bulls kill my sheep, I will take the biggest and continue my journey the next morning. So the man agreed. So he went to sleep for the next morning. The next morning when he woke up, he went inside the cage and found his sheep lying dead. So he went and told the man that your head had killed my sheep. So he took the biggest bull and left the village into the next village. He went into the next village, but this time around, he arrived in the morning. So he met some family who were going to bury their dead body. He spoke with them that they should exchange the dead body with the bull. They agreed, so he collected the dead body and gave them the bull, and he set off into the next village. He walked for a very long distance into the next village. He deliberately got to the village at night as usual, and he searched for a house where there were so many children living there. He went to the man of the house, greeted and told him the same story, that he's a traveler. He got here in the night, so he's looking for a place to sleep so that the next morning he can continue his journey. The man replied and said, yes, I can give you a place to sleep, but I have only one bed. What about your child? Where is he going to sleep? Kwaku Ananse immediately said, "Oh, don't be worried about my child. Since we have so many children over here, he can just sleep among them. But there's one issue. He fasts a lot at night, but I have told him not to fast tonight. So you can tell your children that when he fasts, they can beat him." Kwaku Ananse told the man this because he knew that the body was already stinking, so that they don't suspect him. Kwaku Ananse added that your children can beat him, but if they beat him to death, the next morning, I will take the most handsome one to replace him. So the man agreed and they went to sleep. So the next morning, the dead body was indeed dead again. So Kwaku Ananse went to the man and complained, and the man had to condone to any agreement they had gone. So he collected the most handsome son and left the village into his own village. When he got to his own village, the king invited all his people into the palace and asked Kwaku Ananse to deliver his mission if he is done. So Kwaku Ananse brought out the child, and everybody in the palace was very surprised, including the king. They were surprised about how he was able to use common maize to exchange for a human being that is alive. So the king told Kwaku Ananse, "Tell us, how did you do it? How was it possible?" And then Kwaku Ananse narrated from A to Z about how he was able to convince all these people to exchange the maize for the human being. So everybody was happy for Kwaku Ananse. They played drums, they danced, they jubilated, and the king was so happy. So he divided his kingdom into three and gave one to Kwaku Ananse, and he named him the most wise person of that village. So that is how the story went. Thank you very much for staying connected. My name is